welcome back to the Bullpen on the Horn Takes podcast. It's the internet show all about Texas baseball. Joining me in the bullpen tonight, as always, Marc Pena from Occupy Left Field and Zach Sim from OrangeBloods.com. Guys, how are we doing on this fine Monday evening?
Doing really well, Sean. Good to see you guys again. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Happy Monday to everybody out there watching. Make sure you guys follow us on X for all the latest on Texas baseball. Subscribe, get notified to get all the latest content over there on the YouTube channel at Horn Takes. Chinook Seedery, guys. We've all tasted them. We all love them. We even got Marc on a new flavor. He's probably rocking it right now. I honestly don't think you can go bad with the Chinook seeds. So if you guys like seeds while you're watching your ball games, get over there to ChinookSeedery.com. Use the promo code HornTakes. Get 10% off your order right there at ChinookSeedery.com. Zach, man, are we ever going to get you off of the dill pickle as the number one? Or is that always number one?
Not until they start making spicy dill, my dude.
So the only two options are dill or spicy dill. That's fair. They are really good, by the way. I enjoyed those very much. I did my Chinook Seedery power rankings. I don't even remember what they were, but I remember Hatch Chili was number one.
I remember you had dill way too low, so I invalidated your rankings immediately.
Yeah, that's fair, man. It's all, you know what, though? They got something for everybody. I think that's the important part. So get over there, get you some seeds, 10% off with the promo code Horn Takes. All right. Oh, if you're joining us tonight, make sure you jump in the chat. Post your comments, post your questions. We love to interact with you guys. We appreciate all the interaction. Man, big weekend for the Texas Longhorns in baseball. They finally get back on the winning side of baseball. It's crazy. We won so many series in a row and in such dominant fashion in a lot of cases that it was like pretty bad to watch them lose two series in a row. I mean, that was kind of hurting me deep. So we go up to Norman against the arch rival Oklahoma Sooners with a lot on the line, not just, hey, let's get right before postseason, but, hey, we got an opportunity to go ahead and wrap up the SEC regular season championship. They go on the road in a game that, despite me saying I thought we'd sweep, we knew it was going to be tough against their ace, and they figure out a way to get a win. Welcome back, Max Ballou, by the way. Big shot there in the top of the ninth inning. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Talk to us, guys. Zach, you talk to us about the series, and then Marc, we definitely want to hear your representation of Occupy Left Field up there in Norman this weekend. We'll start with you, Zach. Let's hear it, man.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was a really good series win. Having to deal with Kyson on Thursday, he had his best stuff, right? Like he was dealing. He was not. He wasn't missing. He was hitting the strike zone, and he was really. What was surprising to me is he was using that slider to great effect. It wasn't just his fastball, which he can run up there, but that slider was just devastating. And then the Horns just kind of outlasted him, to be honest. I mean, it's not like they beat him. They ran up his pitch count, and they were able to finally get to the bullpen, and they were able to take advantage. And then that Friday night game, Cade Crossland has a lot of talent, obviously, and he's a big lefty. But it was funny talking to Slosninkle. He said both Crossland and Malachi, who Texas faced on Saturday, he said both of their stuff analytically, statistically speaking, whatever, both played up a lot more than they had seen, at least on video and on paper. But I thought he was really good. And it showed, right? Like Texas, they were never able to just deliver the big blow in order to really knock Oklahoma down. And they kind of let Oklahoma hang around, and then Oklahoma was able to take advantage late in the game. And, it was funny because Dylan Volantis threw 47 pitches on Thursday night. It was, if he only had to throw 27 or 30 somewhere in there, you probably would have seen him again on Saturday just to close that thing out. And I think that's, one of the things that they've been so effective with is the way they manage their bullpen. And it was, credit to Oklahoma. Their hitters did a really good job of laying off stuff, not chasing the breaking ball. So I thought it was a really even series overall, but Texas, like I said, they continued to hang in there and kind of wait around, and then, struck when it was appropriate. So great series. A lot of fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think, game one, we had the big blow late, which was totally awesome. So happy for Max. I thought it was really interesting watching him get around the bases, and you could just see like 26 games of just pin up emotion just explode all in like a matter of like 5 seconds. So that was like a really cool moment to watch that. I'm sure if you're an Oklahoma fan, you absolutely hated it, but on a like just a human sports level, that was a really cool moment to watch him. Just it was almost like all that frustration and all that weight just gone, and with just one swing. So that was really, and it was a really damn big swing too, man. He knocked the piss out of that baseball. So
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was cool,
he
man.
was 0 for 4 going into that at bat. So I mean, he definitely looked rusty, right? It wasn't
yeah.
the sharpest, but the thing I was encouraged by was the fact that when he was swinging, he wasn't doing so tentatively, right? He was going for it. He was putting a charge into it. He was looking to do some damage. So I think that bodes well for him, getting back into the swings of things. Is that, maybe come into regional, even super regional time, you might see 75 to 85% of Max. And if so, right, like you already see the effect it has on the team. And Sauce-Nagel talked about it. He's like, on Tuesday when he took BP, even him, like the entire team was just different. And at the same time, it makes the lineup look a lot different. You get another left-handed hitter in there. You get a guy that can affect the game as he did with one swing because he has that power. And so I was really encouraged because you see guys come back from injury, like even A-Rod to an extent. That kid is just the guttiest kid ever that's continuing to deal with that hand. But there's times when he's swinging and you're like, ooh, like that doesn't look comfortable.
Right.
I didn't get that feeling at all from Max. Max was out there and he was taking hacks. And I mean, he's a tough kid, no doubt, but he didn't look limited at all, which I thought super impressive. I mean, hats off to Baloo.
Yeah, I mean, the weekend for him statistically not great. Not Max Baloo standard whatsoever, and I'm sure he would say the same thing. But man, to come back like that and then just have that type of moment where you just, I mean, that was like a nail in the coffin. I mean, you can come back from 3 runs down, but that was a huge shot. And I think it just kind of took all the air out of what was left of Oklahoma's gut for that game. They just were kind of gutted with that one shot. So really cool to see that. I thought, I'll get your thoughts on it in a little bit, Zach, but we'll come back to it. But I thought he was really frustrated with some of the umpiring. We've been kind of dabbling with the umpiring, the last couple of weeks, talking about that. A couple of times he looked really, really frustrated with strike threes. And I don't, how you can't tell, man, because the angle of the way they have those camera angles, man, some of them, they were really close. I'll say that.
I think he was honestly more frustrated with himself. There was only one where I think he really got fooled. I think it was Crossland on Saturday threw him a ball that he looked at strike 3, and he must have been looking for something different because he did not expect what he got. And you could tell he was just like, all right. But I know a couple pitches you're talking about. There was a couple on the outside. They were strikes. I mean, I think he was more frustrated with himself because, again, he hasn't seen live pitching to that extent. And we talked about this last week where it's like, hey, man, you're going to let him roll out there against Kyson Witherspoon, who's throwing 97, 98, 99. Rolling a lefty is throwing 96. And then you roll in Malachi, who in his first inning, he's throwing 100. I mean, you haven't seen live pitching like that. That's tough to do. I don't care what kind of sim games you're doing or batting machines, VR, anything else. Like that's tough. So, it was interesting for sure.
Absolutely. All right, Mark, let's get to you real quick. So you guys traveled up to Norman, a large contingent. I saw you guys on the TV a lot. You guys were in right field though, down the right field line. That they wouldn't let y'all hang out in left field. They just said nope. Or y'all just made a command decision. We're hanging out by the boys this weekend.
Man, I got to tell you, I'll give Oklahoma respect. They give visiting fans there the best tickets you can imagine. We rolled up on Thursday, really not knowing what to expect, and a lot of us were on the player pass list, and we got tickets like first row above the visiting dugout. So the entire UT section was right above the UT dugout. There was a great group of Texas fans there for the weekend. Had a bunch of folks from left field, A lot of family, a lot of the players' girlfriends were there. Just a lot of new people that we met as well from the area, right? DFW or from the Oklahoma area that made their way up there. So it was a fantastic weekend. I really enjoyed it. Thought the Horns definitely played better than they had the last 2 weeks, right? And respect to the Oklahoma crowd. They had really good crowds all 3 nights there. This is the fourth time that I've been in Norman for baseball, and it's the first time that we've seen really good attendance at a baseball series there. So I believe Friday and Saturday were both sold out. Both of those games also had an overlap with the Oklahoma softball regional across the street, and they were still able to pack people in there. So it was a fantastic environment. Just two really solid teams playing baseball, and we had a great time up there in Norman.
And the Thunder were playing that either Thursday or Friday night, right? So
I believe they played Friday, and it was a little bit later and on the road. But again, man, just great crowds out there. When we rolled up on Friday, I was really surprised to see the sold out signs everywhere. And we got there about 30 minutes before the game. There was lines to get into the stadium. I've never seen anything like that before in Norman for baseball. So they had really good support. Beautiful weather as well, other than the little rain delay that we had on Saturday. The weather was real nice as well.
Outstanding. Yeah, it looked like good crowds on the TV, and man, you could just tell that anytime Texas and Oklahoma get together, we obviously don't like them, they don't like us, and even if it's not football, it still means a lot to both of those teams to beat the other one. So exciting matchups, and I haven't got to see Oklahoma play at all this year, so I really was impressed by the pitching. I had heard you guys talk about it, especially you, Zach, the two brothers, and just how good they were, and then I went back and kind of looked at them. Statistically, they didn't look as good on paper as absolutely they do like live pitching. They kept talking about the I can't remember it, Malachi, and just how many errors that Oklahoma defense has had behind him, and it came again. Like the curse was not lifted on Saturday. They had a bunch of errors in Saturday's game, which really gave Texas an opportunity. And problem though is a couple times they didn't really take advantage of it, and so obviously frustrating. But they got the bats going at the end on Saturday. Which was big. They lock up the regular season SEC championship on Thursday night with Thursday's win. LSU, Arkansas both lose on Thursday. How big was that, do you think, to go ahead and just like get that out of the way? Because I think to me that was kind of like the big pressure point headed into this weekend. Was we had a 5-game lead, and it trickled away over the last couple of weekends before this one, and you just kind of sit there and go, man, you just start like doubt starts creeping in, or just like the what if start creeping in when you get to that point, and where all you've got to do is just win one game and get a little bit of luck. And it ends up happening on Thursday. They get both on Thursday. They get the win. They get the little bit of help from the other two teams losing. How big do you think that was for the team, Zach, if at all? Maybe they don't think the way fans do.
I think it's big from a pressure standpoint. I honestly think that kind of entire pressure went away when they didn't win it on Senior Day there in Austin against Florida. And the fact that, again, timing is a weird thing, but the fact that they didn't get it, it could have carried over. But the fact that they got Baloo back that Tuesday, I think it kind of washed away all of that pressure. And they're like, you know what? Hey, this is a guy that very could have just shut it down, said, piss off. I'm going to the MLB draft. I'm done for the season, right? But the fact that he came back and he worked so hard to do that, I don't think they felt any pressure. I think they played like themselves, right? I mean, and again, they would not have been able to outlast a guy like Kyson Witherspoon if they were playing so uptight that they were just not able to really stay within their approach. And so credit to Schlossnagle, credit to the entire team, but their mental approach, which we've talked about previously, is extraordinarily strong. And I think that helped them out a lot.
Yeah. You look at this team, we've been talking about it all season. They just approach the game differently than some teams do. They just kind of show up, and it's very businesslike, and it doesn't matter until the last out. They never kind of really change what they do, which you don't see that a lot. You see teams in certain situations start pressing, and we kind of had a discussion last week, Zach, about the approach at the plate. Like sometimes I wish they would be a little more aggressive, and like press maybe a little bit more as you get later into games where you're behind. But they just always kind of stick with the plan. And obviously so far this year it's worked out really well. I did think it was interesting, and Sloss alluded to it headed into the weekend. Hey, we're gonna change some things offensively, and we're gonna cut some of these guys loose. And it was really interesting to watch. I think it was almost all of them kind of cut loose, especially Thursday night. We saw a lot of early count swinging, and we end up plating 5 runs on first pitch swings, which obviously huge. Max Blue's hey, welcome back shot was a first pitch right down the middle, and he busted it. So that was awesome to just see that, and just see. I think maybe if you don't even do it all the time, just having that in your back pocket where you can go out there from inning to inning and kind of change what you're going to do can really put some doubt into pitchers' minds, and just kind of maybe keep them off of their plan. So I thought that was really cool to see that. I felt like, and Zach, maybe we had family in for our daughter's graduation. I didn't get to pay quite as much attention on Friday and Saturday, but I almost felt like they kind of went back to the game plan. It's been the game plan all year. Look, let's try to get these guys deep in counts. Occasionally, some of them would come up and swing early in counts, but I thought Thursday was really like kind of an ambush moment where they're just like, man, we're swinging. Whatever happens, happens.
I think some of that's also the pitching you have to deal with, right? So one of the knocks on Malachi, the Saturday starter for OU, was he can very much get in his head when pitches aren't going his way. And you actually saw that. I don't know how close you're paying attention on Saturday, but I think it was the second or third inning. He about had a meltdown on the mound. Like he didn't get a call he wanted, and he had to walk around twice before he could finally, kind of get back into himself. And I even thought at the time, and wrote a little note on my side. I was like, this is what you hear about with Malachi. Like this is where he loses it off the rails, and you start seeing those ballooned ERAs. But to his credit, he was able to come back and fight back. But against his stuff and against Crossland's stuff, I think from an approach standpoint, it made more sense not to swing as often early on. Whereas Kyson, you have to, right? Because if you're not swinging early, he's got such good command, and especially the way he was commanding his slider. If you're not, you have no idea what you're getting coming up. I mean, he might throw you a 97 mile an hour fastball on the inside, or you might get a slider that's 89, 90, and it's coming on the opposite side of the plate. And one of the things that I thought Crossland did really well was not just his changeup, but he was also utilizing both sides of the plate. And that's what they say about him from statistical standpoint, is when he's able to throw the fastball to both sides, he becomes extraordinarily difficult. He just doesn't always have that ability. And so you got to take some pitches to kind of see, well, what are you going to get from him tonight? Right. And the other thing weird about Crossland was, if you look at his splits on home and away, it's night and day. When he's not at L. Norman, like his pitching is not very good. When he's at home, he's lights out. So you got to kind of adjust your approach just based on what you're seeing from the pitchers.
Yeah. And I thought Malachi was kind of like effectively wild, I guess is the way I would categorize it, early in that game Saturday. He had some command issues early on, but again, when you're chunking at 99 miles an hour, a lot of times that's enough to get people to start swinging. And, at the very least, you get them in a situation where they can't pull up and stop. So, Mark, you were there. Talk to us. Did you notice the frustration on the Saturday, from Saturday pitcher Malachi? Stuff started unraveling on him. Like he would make pitches, and the defense couldn't make plays, and just some really little, I'll say it, like Pee-wee type shit happened to that defense in that game on Saturday. And like, you just don't expect that at this level to see that often. Could you guys see it from the stands? What was the environment like during that little shit show that they put on?
I mean, it wasn't anything that stood out too much, to be honest with you, right? I think Texas had the same type of frustrations on Friday,
Yeah.
with OU playing small ball and bunting the ball all over the place and, advancing runners in ways that you weren't expecting. So I personally didn't notice it that much on Saturday, but I'm glad that the boys finally figured it out, right? I was feeling frustration the opposite direction. That top of the second when you had bases loaded, nobody
Yes.
out. I'm like, all right, let's go. It's been so long since we've been able to play from ahead. Like, let's get this going. And then before you know it, it's strikeout double play, and you're like, man, we're
What
in a
the
little
hell
bit of
happened?
trouble here.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I maybe didn't notice their frustration because of my frustration, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that Texas finally figured it out. And man, I tell you, I wish we had a 2-hour rain delay in every damn game because I don't know what it is about coming back from those delays, but they look like a rejuvenated team with a lot of excitement. But Sean, I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier on the show, man. I just really thought it was poetic justice, right? That Max is the one that got us the big hit on Thursday to effectively win us the SEC title, right? I think most fans felt a little bit of a oh shit, this season's over.
Yeah.
2 months ago when you hear about his injury, right? And it just so happened to come at the same time as the injury to A-Rod and to Mendoza. And man, I remember texting with you guys that Sunday night. We're coming off of a sweep against Missouri, and I'm like, dude, like this could be it. Like we might be done.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really cool that Darren Norman, Max got to come back and play. You also saw the return of Mendoza at second base, and
Yeah.
it just felt like kind of things are coming back together at the right time for this team. So again, man, baseball is a week-to-week sport. We've been down in the dumps the last 2 weeks after Arkansas and Florida, and now you're kind of feeling back on the upswing here, man. And it's going to be a long 2-week waiting for those regionals to get going here in Austin.
Yeah. You hit it, man. It's starting to get some guys back. I think that's a good kind of segue into something, I wanted to talk about tonight and something we've been talking about. We kind of mentioned it last week on the show. And let me bring up a comment here. Somebody's asking about Willie G. Any news why Willie G lost his starting spot? I don't know. And you talk to Sloss all the time, Zach. I don't know that he lost his starting job necessarily. I think he just had one of those sit down breaks that you see guys have to take sometimes. Maybe he did. I don't know. I didn't see anything other than, maybe something at the plate that would have, where coach was just like, you know what, just have a rest. Or like you're never playing again. Like I don't feel like that's probably the case. He came back later in the series and pinch hit, I believe. What are your thoughts on Willie G? And then we'll kind of get into the whole the whole conversation, which is now we got all these guys back healthy. What are lineups going to look like as we head into Hoover on Thursday and then on into regionals?
Yeah, I think from an outfield standpoint, this is, something we talked about when Max, kind of announced that, hey, I'm going to try to come back. And it was, okay, what do you do when all these guys get healthy again? Because A-Rod was an intermittent, can he field, right? How long can he go with that hand? And he's still dealing with the hand. I don't know if anyone watches his at-bats, but that dude is as tough as nails because every time he checks swings or swings too hard, you see him walk way back around. He's not collecting his breath. He's sitting there going, oh shit, this hurts a lot.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where A-Rod has proven himself to be kind of that guy, and he's an offense starter. You have to have a spot from him somewhere, right? So whether it's a DH position or it's playing in left field, that's where he's going to be because Mendoza's back. I mean, Mendoza on Friday told coach, no, that's my spot. Like I'm taking second base over again. That's not an indictment against A-Rod at second base. It's merely the fact that Mendoza's been healthy for a bit and it was time for him to get back in the field. Right. And so if anything, it actually opens up the offense, allows them to be a little more strategic and tactical about matchups and placement because, hey, we can drop A-Rod to the DH spot. We can insert Tommy Farmer and Gasparino for more plus defense, right? Or you can put A-Rod out there because his defense has been solid. He's not going to make any All-American list at defense in left field, but solid. And then you can start mixing around the center field where you see Tommy Farmer start early and then Gasparino come in late defensively. So I don't think he's necessarily lost his spot. It's that Tommy Farmer's been hitting a little bit better than he has in conference, and defensively they're on par with each other. Gasparino is definitely better in center field, but they're on par. And then, Jonah, they went into the series not wanting him to play at all. His hamstring is a little tweaked right now and has been. And so they wanted to get him rest. And that's why you didn't see him on that Friday night where they were starting to pinch in a bunch of left-handers. They didn't want him running down the baseline and hurting himself. And so realistically, he has 2 weeks to get healthy. If he's healthy in 2 weeks, now he can go play DH or he can play left field. A-Rod can jump back to DH. And again, you got 5 guys to play 3 spots. So there's going to be an odd man out at times.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell a story of something that we all noticed during the Thursday night game. It was a big at bat in that game, and Jonah was due up. And he actually got pinch hit for Gasparino. And before I even noticed it, 2 dads that I was standing next to just said, look at him right now. That they point down at Jonah in the dugout. He is on the top step screaming his ass off, supporting Gasparino on every damn pitch, just screaming for him, yelling for him, cheering for him, right? And you don't normally see that from a guy that gets pinch hit for in a big situation like that. So respect to Jonah. That showed a lot of maturity. And I think at the end of the day, right, something that you're going to see from everybody, because I think there are going to be some uncomfortable situations where guys that have been playing a lot of the season are not going to be in the lineup in a very big game, right? And they're likely going to get an opportunity at some point in that game. They got to stay locked in. They got to stay focused. And I think the team just needs to realize, right, that there's about 10, 11 good players for 9 spots right now. So having too many players is better than having too few from that perspective. So hoping they can all kind of keep that positive energy and be ready when coach calls on them.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting sort of chess match that we see out of Sloss, and we'll never I say that we may never completely get to see like if he pulled the right levers or not. And what I mean by that is, the team might go on and win the College World Series, or they might not. And then, but we won't know if Gasparino was in instead of Farmer, what that would have done, in terms of production or whatnot. So, but it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out and how because you do have to handle it from 2 sides. It's not only the offensive piece of it, it's the defensive piece in it. And you mentioned Gasparino is absolutely a plus defender in the, I mean, that dude eats up ground like it is going out of style. We all saw him as a freshman. He hasn't had as good of luck with it this year, but we saw him as a freshman. I think he nabbed 6 or 7 home runs as a true freshman last season. So he's a guy that can change a game for you big time out in center field. Obviously has had a lot of struggles at the plate, but then you got to sit there and go, man, he was he started off hot, he got cold, and then he blew up that week of the Missouri game, kind of had a good week and a half there. What if he hits his stride offensively? What if the light just turns back on for him? He's a guy that can go win you games offensively too. He's got that kind of power, that kind of pop in his bat. I mean, when he hits the ball like it's like 108 miles an hour plus, like every single time. He does not hit the ball lightly very often.
He unlike Farmer, he can affect the game with one swing. I mean, Farmer's a contact guy, right? He's a hit rate guy. When Gaspo's up there, especially if you got guys on base, he has the ability to flip a game very, very quickly. And so,
yeah,
when you look at their numbers, they're very, very similar. And, I've actually made the case that Gasparino has better numbers than Tommy Farmer in some aspects, because I put together, side-by-side comparison on Orange Bloods, because people kept yelling. They're like, why is this guy in? I'm like, I don't think he's as bad. There's a lot of recency bias in this. Like, y'all claim that he's bad, but if you look at it, it's actually fairly solid work. Just like I was defending Tommy Farmer before everyone else was kind of jumping on the bandwagon early on, when I'm saying, if you look at his at-bats, if you look at what he's doing, his numbers belay the quality that he has at the plate. And, it's college baseball. Sometimes these kids aren't going to hit the ball 100% of the time. That's just the way it goes, right? And so I really do think they have two good options, and it's just, to your point, it's about Schlossnagle finding out, does this guy match up a little bit better, or does he have a really good breaking ball? I might go Farmer. Does he have more of a fastball approach? I might go Gasparino. Or to your point, they're going to be playing at the dish in regionals for sure, and possibly even super regionals. Center field's a tough place to play at the dish. I mean, there's a lot of room. So now you got to start thinking about defensively. Who do I want out there? Tommy can cover a lot of ground. Gasparino can cover more ground. So
sure.
Yeah.
I think like when you're talking about which one to hit, does this pitcher give up contact? I mean, he's getting outs, but are people having good contact rates against him? Yeah. There's just a million things out there that kind of, until you really watch and listen, like I love listening to your talks with Sloss, because he'll start talking about things and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I never really even thought of that before, which is clearly why he gets paid what he gets paid to coach baseball. And I just talk on a show on Monday nights, but it's really interesting. There's so much for these guys to think about, so much, data points and things like that. It can almost get to where it's kind of ridiculous. And maybe I think sometimes I notice it a ton in football. These guys like quit believing what they're seeing based on what's on paper. And so I think that's a challenge for these guys as well. Yeah, having the information's great. Using that information to your advantage, you certainly want to do that. But also, man, can this guy just go play ball? Like, do I think he's a ball player? So it'll be, I mean, and there's, there was a lot of talk on, the internet about different guys who should come out when this eventually happens. And now it's happened. And I'm not sure, I think they've all contributed, and that's the problem. It's a good problem to have, but you don't really have a guy that's just heads over heels standing out above the other ones. They've all had their moments. They've all played well. They've all had some down moments as well. So, but it's been effective and it's worked all season. So, I'm not worried about it. I just think it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. And I wonder too, how much of that puppeteer stuff does Sloss actually do? Or is he going to just kind of go, you know what, man, I got to make a decision. We're running out of games. We've got postseason now, and what that decision is, and does he stick with it regardless? I don't know. He to me, he's kind of shown a willingness to play around with that data and those matchups, like you were talking a little bit earlier, Zach. So yeah, good problem to have. We'll probably never know if he pulls the right levers, but it'll be fun to watch.
But I do think you started to see that freedom of the lineup this past week. And now that Max was back, he was able to start putting pieces around and testing things out to see what it looked like. And very frankly, I think you'll see that again in Hoover in game one. You're going to see some pieces moved around. You might even see some mid-game changes and just trying to adjust it. And like you said, pull those levers. So,
yeah. And I think, Sean, we'll see how the team handles that pressure, right? Because I think there is a little bit more of that pressure to perform from a day-to-day perspective, right? You know that, there's guys right behind you that are hungry to play and that are capable of playing at a high rate. And we went through several weeks where we're kind of, just super gluing some kind of lineup together with all the injuries that we had. And now it's the opposite. So it can either be a good pressure or a bad pressure, depending on the player. So I'm interested to see how the boys are going to look through that process over the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
So getting Max Ballou back, obviously huge for the offense, huge for this Texas team. I mean, he was kind of like we've talked all year on the show about different guys kind of stepping up and being that spirit animal for the team. We've talked about Rylan Galvan and, doing that. We've talked, and obviously Ballou was one of those guys before he got hurt. He's back now. When we talk about the top of the lineup, I thought it was interesting over the weekend. The top of the lineup, just on the whole, not very good, like statistically, but they had some moments. You had the big Max Ballou hit. You had Mendoza, Galvan, and Flores getting some big hits in that fifth inning on Friday where they snapped back when Oklahoma got that big lead on them. And then, a couple other guys that had big hits on Saturday, Borba and Schussler with the home runs late that really, allowed Texas to just completely put that series away. I wonder, and I'm interested in both of y'all's takes on this. Like, how quickly do you think that top of that order can get kind of back dangerous the way it was before all the injuries? Because at the beginning of the season, once the lineup kind of got set and that top three of the lineup, they were pretty rough on teams because it's hard to pitch to that many good hitters in a row. And then we saw with the injuries over time, we started to lose a little bit of that. It's, we got the guys back. Is that something that can happen pretty quick, or should we expect? And maybe you don't know the answer, and maybe it's an unknowable answer. I just don't have any other sort of, I guess, situations where I could look to and go, oh, this group did it really quickly, or, no, it takes weeks. It's just the way it is.
I mean, at the end of the day, Ethan Mendoza's leading off, and he's hitting 328. He's been flirting between 330 and 350 pretty much all season long. His on-base percentage is 433, right? And then Max Ballou, now granted, he's only played in 27 games. He's hitting 333. His OPS is still over 1. And, he's got a 442 on base. If I'm coach, the only thing that I would consider moving things around is, would it make sense to put a guy like A-Rod as that number 3 or 4 hitter just because of the amount of doubles he hits? So he's always a threat to get an extra base hit. But if you also look at his on-base percentage is 413. But then you got to take into account Rylan Galvan, the amount he walks, right? He's hit his on-base percentage is 453, which leads the team. So, I think there's going to be times where you're willing to adjust it so that you're not so front heavy and you're not middle heavy, that you almost want to stack it in certain ways where you get a, contact guy like Mendoza, then you get a power guy like Ballou. Well, then you get a double power guy in rather than Galvan. Then you bring it back to contact when you have Adrian Rodriguez and Schussler. And then you put in a guy like, Jalen Flores, who has the ability for power. And so now you start seeing, okay, you got some lefties in there, you got some righties, and you can kind of start blocking it off where it's, power hit. And again, there's a lot of different ways you can build lineups. And it was funny. I think earlier in the season, I started to poke the bear a little bit on Schlossnagle and just like, how do you build a lineup, right? Because you've got all these right-handers in there. Ballou's out. You've got one lefty basically in Adrian Rodriguez. And I'm pretty sure he could have talked for a couple hours on the subject around how you build a lineup and what it looks like versus a matchup and left versus right, power versus non. And, every coach is different. If you go ask David Pierce today, he'll tell you he wants to see right, left, right, left, right, left. Skip Johnson is very similar in that. If you look at their lineup this past weekend, it was pretty much right, left, right, left. And that's just so that you can't put in a guy that is a specialist or a lefty specialist, because that right after that, you're going to have to take him out. So, going back to the original question around how fast can the lineup get back to being what it is at the top, I'm not even sure we've seen the top of the lineup yet, right? Like it's going to continue to be this nebulous thing that they're going to play matchups and they're going to continue to look how they can improve. And so, you might see Ballou stay at 2 just because of the contact and the power ratio he has to get to Rylan Galvan, or you might see a guy like Adrian Rodriguez or Kimball Schusser continue to move up and or around just so you have that on base so you can turn things over. So, I think the good news is that Texas has a lot of ability to move guys around because there are multiples. They're not just purely a power team. They're not purely a contact team. They're kind of one of the in-between teams where they have a little bit of both. So,
I think we've probably seen every imaginable lineup out of this team this year. I mean, it has not been steady at all, whether it's been due to injuries or just guys, like you said, the matchup piece, whatever it is. I kind of asked Sloss a question out in Vegas, similar, because they had 3 different lineups that weekend in Vegas, and I asked him about it, and he gave me the really short press conference version. I would love to have the 3-hour-long conversation with him just to hear his thoughts on how that works. So, I think at the very least, you have a lot more chess pieces now, and so you have a lot more levers to pull. Whether they come through or not, again, we'll have to find out. But I am kind of curious, and I'll start with you, Mark. Like, as you move guys around in the lineup, we know that sometimes that can have a positive effect on a lineup because you see it. Like, you've seen games where teams just couldn't hit, and then they just make a few small changes in the lineup, and then all of a sudden the team comes alive a little bit. Is there any negative, like, to moving guys around? Like, do you think you can, like, cool off a hitter by moving him out of one spot and put him in another spot? How much of that is like a thing in baseball?
That's a really tough question. I think from my perspective, right, it's always good to have that protection in the lineup, right? You want I like to stack, a couple good guys right together in the lineup so you can't pitch around the big bats that you have in the order, right? So I personally liked having Max and Galvan, hitting one after the other in the lineup. I feel like it gives you a very, very scary portion of that
Sure.
lineup, right? Where you get to that point and it's like, okay, if Mendoza gets on base, right, or if the bottom of the lineup gets on base, you can't pitch around Max, right? Because then if you put Max on base as well, you have Ryland coming up, and then you're really setting yourself up for trouble. So that's kind of the way that I see it, and I think, I hate to be harping on this, but I'm going to bring it up again. I just feel like our offense is going to be so much better if we can just find more ways to have productive outs, right? The rate of strikeouts over the last 3 weeks has been pretty concerning to me. I think when you look at the box score on Friday, 17 strikeouts is really a crazy number. And I remember we're at the bar pregame on Saturday. I'm looking at the box score. I'm like, the first 7 guys in the lineup all struck out at least twice. Yeah. And I think there was 2 or 3 of them that struck out 3 times. And, we had opportunities where there's runners on first and second with 1 out or bases loaded with 1 out. You don't necessarily need a hit, man. Sack fly, ground ball to the right side. Like, give yourself an opportunity. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for this team is limiting strikeouts. I saw our boy Nash posted over the weekend that we're now 0-6 in games where we have, it was either 12 or 14 strikeouts.
14.
Which sounds like, is it 14? So that's an astronomical number to have 6 games with over 14 strikeouts, but it also proves that we're not going to win those games. Right? We're 0-6 and some of those games weren't even close.
Yeah, not a lot of people are going to win those games, by the way. I don't think that's a Texas thing. That's just kind of a baseball thing. If you strike out a lot, it's tough to score runs, which makes it tough to win games. I mean, we struck out 40 times over the weekend, and that takes me back to week 1. Out there, well, was it week 1? Yeah, out there in Arlington. I think we struck out 40 times that weekend. We were just like, holy shit, we struck out 40 times in one weekend. So it
gives me
again.
Nightmares. Yeah, it gives me nightmares for Omaha too, because I remember 2 games that stand out to me. I think they were both first games in the College World Series. One was Mississippi State, where Bednar struck us out over 20 times in that game, and then I believe there was another game, maybe UC Irvine, a first round game in the College World Series, where we struck out like 18 times and just didn't give ourselves a chance to even win. So that's the most concerning thing that I've seen right now is just the strikeouts kind of pop up over the last 3 weeks specifically. So hopefully, again, getting Max back will get us some better opportunities, and hopefully we can start getting some more productive outs at the plate as well.
I do think that's the positive for, the next 2 weeks, right? They have 2 weeks essentially to start making those adjustments, because the thing about trying to make those adjustments in season is it's so hard, because and Saul Stengel talked about this before. I think it was against UTSA where he was like, look, we were getting beat and we weren't even competitive at the plate because we had made all these adjustments on a Monday. Well, when are you going to implement them? Well, you got to implement it during a game. That can get really scary really fast. And then you kind of start to see things roll, but it's hard to make adjustments in season just because you're trying to adjust so quickly and you have so little time in between travel and games and everything else. But now they've truly have 2 weeks where they can make all the adjustments in the world. And a lot of times it's a mental reset as well. They've been through a grinder at this point. None of these kids have played a 10-game SEC series conference series before. So getting away from SEC pitching was also probably going to be a positive thing. You know, to get to the regional, it's like
that's a fair point.
Throwing 100 miles an hour with a 90-mile-an-hour slider with an 87 curve and a 90-mile changeup, like yeah, can I have some more? Like, can we play in the Conference USA or, you know, the SWAC or whatever the hell they play?
Give us a 4 seed, Zach.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's the positive news, right? They've seen the bad and they've seen the really, really good. And so now you got to, you know, they always talk about don't get too high, don't get too low. You want to be somewhere in the middle. And so making those tweaks, making those adjustments. And this postseason is always where you see one random guy that's, you know, hit 250 all season long go absolutely bananas. Well, it's because he's had time to mentally reset, rest up, change some things in his approach, and all of a sudden, you know, he's seeing it a little differently. He's going bananas. So
yeah. I think the other thing for me, like as you talk about making adjustments and you know, changing things up too much, and I think you can paralyze yourself thinking. I mean, you don't have time to think when somebody's throwing the ball 96 miles an hour. You just have to kind of see it and hit it. And so I posted a poll at the end of last week, I think it was, you know, or is baseball paralyzing themselves with analysis? Do we got guys standing up at the plate, like really locking themselves up mentally before the pitches even happen? And kind of my last question to that was like, what happened to just seeing the ball and hitting the ball? Because we kind of talked about that last week, Zach. There's a difference between what they call a strike or call a ball and what you can hit. And it always takes me back. What was that cat that played for the Angels and then played for the Rangers that could literally hit any pitch that was thrown? Vlad Guerrero. Like, he just swung at whatever the hell he wanted to swing at because he could just see the ball. And obviously he's super talented and skilled and all that stuff. Everybody's not going to be Vlad Guerrero. But I think my point to that is, like, he just went up and, like, if he saw it, he's going to swing. If he thought he could get his bat on it, he would. And a lot of times more often than not, he would get his bat on it. Maybe not productive, but he would get a bat on it. So I don't know. I think sometimes it's good to just get back to like how when you were a kid, maybe, and you're talented, right? Like, see it and hit it. And so yeah, I'm hoping like this kind of little rest. It's not really a rest, I guess, but this little off period we've got as we head into the tournament on Thursday and then getting ready for the regionals the next Friday can get that mental reset that you kind of talked about, Zach, because I don't think a lot of people consider it, you know, what they did just do. I mean, they were really successful in a really grindy meat grinder type of a schedule where there's really no off week whatsoever. So to do that for 10 straight weeks, I think getting a little break will be outstanding for the guys. As we talk about it, let's you know what? Let's do three best. We haven't got to do three best in a while. So I'm excited about that we finally get to do it. We'll start with you, Mark. Who were your three best over the weekend?
All right. So I had two pitchers on my list and then one hitter. So I really wanted to compliment Luke Harrison's performance on Saturday. I thought he was incredible. He's just been pretty consistent for us, right? And I don't like being surprised when I show up for a baseball game. So it just seems like you know what you're getting with Luke, right? He's going to give you 5 innings. He's going to be solid. He's reliable, and you can just tell he's pitching with a lot of confidence right now. So that was big to see. I think, again, not to say anything bad about Ruger, but he had another tough weekend, right? When you're looking at the starting pitching, you want to know that some of the starters there, are kind of on top of their game going into the postseason. So I definitely had him. Then I also pegged Max, right? Just his return overall, I felt like was so huge for the team. You could tell on Thursday there was a pep in the dugout, and the guys were excited before the game. You could kind of feel that energy with him back in the lineup, and I think it's going to give the team a great confidence boost. Not to mention the huge home run that he hit to win that game. And then I've been saying this to anybody that would listen for the last 3 weeks. I'm so damn excited about Thomas Burns and the way he's pitching right now. He's just been fantastic. His mound presence right now is pretty fun to watch coming back out after that rain delay. He's just having so much fun on the mound, throwing gas, just a huge arm. And I felt like his 2 appearances over the weekend were really, really nice. I was actually a little bit upset when they took him out after 1 inning on Thursday. I thought maybe they should have left him in 1 more. But man, he's just been spectacular the last couple of weeks. And, Zach, I heard you and Schloss talking on your show today. I'm just kind of fascinated to see how they're going to use him in the postseason, because I do feel like he's very versatile. He's got a ton of confidence, and he's a dominating presence on the mound. He's fun to watch. So he was my number 3 over the weekend.
All right, Zach, who'd you have?
Yeah, I also had Luke Harrison. Texas needed a guy to give him length, and he's not sexy in anything he does, right? Except for that mustache, but he's just a dude on the mound. I mean, he goes out and performs. He gives you his everything. He competes every single time, and so you can't understate how important a guy like him is. And I was watching and talking to some of the Florida folks after that series, and they're like, we were legit scared about Luke Harrison coming in. It's those crafty lefties that don't overpower you, that are throwing 76-mile-an-hour curveballs that you're just like, what the hell is this? That just absolutely kill these lineups. So I great job by him. I had Thomas Burns as well. His progression this season, I think, is really big for Texas. Having had moving Ruger out of that bullpen role where he was the ultimate utility guy to a starter because of Spencer. Used to be, you had both Grubbs and Ruger as your utility guy, so you felt really comfortable no matter what in middle innings. Well, having Burns be able to give you some length, he's got some experience, and then he brings plus stuff. I mean, he throws 97 and 99 when he wants to, and the funny thing is his favorite pitch is not even his fastball, it's his slider. That's what gets a lot of swings and misses. And so he pairs them really well, and he's learned how to use them with each other, which I think he didn't necessarily know how to before when he got to Texas, right? Max has worked a lot with him on that. And then A-Rod. A-Rod was the most consistent performer at the plate across the entire weekend. He went 2 for 3. What was it?
Yeah,
2 for
he was
4,
really good average-wise.
And then 2 for 4. So, I mean, he basically hit 500 for the weekend or a little better.
Right.
Again, I go back to, if you look at when he came back from his hand injury, he's being forced to hit left-handed. That's tough, right? Because even as a switch hitter, like, you're constantly moving back and forth, and he's got a little more power left-handed, but his contact rates are a lot better right-handed. And having to face left-handed pitching is very difficult. And, his numbers just continue to rise every single game as he gets more and more comfortable and seeing the look, seeing what it looks like out of the hands. So I don't know where Texas would be without A-Rod this season. He's just been offensively great, and he's a freshman, right? I mean, he's pretty special. We always talk about Dylan Volantis, which shout out to him, like SEC freshman of the year, but I don't know where this team would be offensively without A-Rod. So
yeah, he's been really good, and I actually considered A-Rod for my 3 best, but I decided I was just going to go with 3 pitchers because, again, I continue to be really impressed with the pitching, and maybe it's like just the moment that some of these guys are starting to show up that has really impressed me over the last few weeks as we've had to deal with that injury with Jared Spencer. But I had Thomas Burns first. 2 appearances out of the bullpen is something that if you can do that consistently and be effective, that's like how you win series. You got guys that can come out of the bullpen and they can continue to get you outs on 2 separate days of a 3-game series. All he did was go 4 innings pitched, a bunch of zeros in between 7 Ks. And he was absolutely overpowering up there on the mound with his fastball. They just didn't have an answer for it. And so bringing in a guy like that can do what he's done over this last, third of the season is just really awesome to see that, really happy to see that. And then I had Luke Harrison. I thought he was outstanding. I think Luke Harrison was pitching the type of game where he probably goes a lot deeper if we don't have the rain issues in Norman. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 5 Ks, only the 1 walk on 83 pitches. So, and he kept that Oklahoma offense, which, we talked about it last week. It's not that great, But he really had them shut down and gave our bats a chance to get hot to the, so we weren't, he had us in a position where we weren't behind a lot. Like we didn't feel like we needed to go score 5 runs in an inning just to get caught back up. So I think that's really important as you talk about working people back into the lineup and just sort of the whole mental approach at the plate. It's good to know that you don't have to go score 5 runs just to get caught back up. And then I had Grayson Saunier, man. I think he took over down 2-1 in that second game in the third inning. He had 3 and a third innings pitch, gave up 1 hit, 1 earned run, 3 Ks and 0 walks. And he kind of was that bridge to Burns and Volantis in game 1. So, man, Grayson Saunier has been a guy that I think if you've looked at his trajectory this season, and like I said, maybe I'm making this into a season award tonight, but his trajectory has been really impressive towards the end of the season from where he started and what they were asking him to do. And I think a lot of that is just trust, right? If they don't trust you, you're not getting in some certain positions. Maybe it was other things. Maybe they trusted other guys more. I don't know. But right now, I feel like Jim Schlossnagle can go, I'm going to put Grayson Saunier in, and I think he's pretty comfortable that he's going to get some pretty good pitching. And again, the more guys you have like that, the better.
The progression and the change that Saunier's made to his release point and his ability to control the ball have, especially in the season, is just not normal, right? Like Max has done a masterclass job with him and getting him to be right. And when I say right, I mean be able to deliver pitches constantly for strikes. Because, that was the big thing on him was you've got a good fastball. Can you command it? Can you command your breaking and stuff? And he couldn't at Ole Miss, right? Like that's why he had the ERA and the stats he did. But what he's been able to do with Max has been really great.
Yeah. So we've been talking about next man up basically all season. And they just keep finding another guy to be the next man up. And I think that's really positive because if you can do that over the course of the season, now all of a sudden you've built a lot of guys that are just comfortable being the next man up because they've done it all season. So that's obviously a confidence thing there. So anyway, 3 best. We're glad to be able to do it again. Only winners get the 3 best. You guys got to win all the rest of the series so we can keep doing 3 best. We love to do it. We love to hand out those prestigious awards. Zach, you kind of segued into these SEC superlatives talking about Dylan Volantis, freshman of the year. I saw that video where Schloss announced to the team. That was really cool. Kind of a really candid moment. So that was neat to see that. But Schloss, coach of the year. We have Dylan Volantis, Rylan Galvan, first team all SEC. We got 4 guys on the SEC all defensive team. Kimball Schusler, who's been the goalie at first base. We've been talking about that all year long, how he sprawls out like a hockey goalie or a catcher almost every single time to get in front of a ball. Really fun to watch. Will Gasparino, we talked about his defense. Rylan Galvan, again, just keeps coming up over and over again. And then Ethan Mendoza. And then something I didn't have written down because I didn't see it until later. Rylan Galvan is a semifinalist for, the Buster Posey Award, which is the outstanding catcher in college baseball. So congrats to all of those guys. Man, it's got to be tough as the SEC to pick who these guys are because there's just so many really great players. I saw a lot of fan bases really upset with some of these awards. That their guys didn't get it or they thought somebody else was more deserving. But man, it's almost like it's impossible to pick it and get it right because there's so many good players. So man, but congratulations to all those folks. A lot of people were talking O'Sullivan for coach of the year. And I don't know that I would have been completely upset with that given the last half of the season. But if you look at it, like Schloss has just been the most consistent and you look at what he had to step into here at Texas and really, again, we've said it multiple times, like this isn't happening for Texas this year without Jim Schlossnagle, without Kane, without Tulo, without all these guys here, without Max Wiener. We're not talking about this team the way we're talking about them today. So again, tip of the cap to those guys. What was your big, like, if you have like a guy that was missed, who's the guy that got missed on these SEC teams?
I mean, to me, it was very, very close between Derek Couriel of LSU and Dylan Volantis for Freshman of the Year. Likely one of those two is going to be National Freshman of the Year. I mean, that's how good both of them are. There's a couple of guys that I think from, the Tennessee side, or you look at like Justin LeBron, where if he had played more consistently, he's probably in the mix there. But overall, I thought they did a really good job of nailing down. Liam Doyle's been very, very good. Is he better than Cade Anderson? In some areas, yes, he is, right? But like those two are so close. The Aloy brother, I think, was probably a no-doubter just for Player of the Year. I mean, he's just been silly, silly good. And the crazy thing was, like, he wasn't known for being that kind of offensive guy. He was known for his defense coming to the season, and he's just sitting there cranking home runs. So, no, I think they got it right. People making the case for O'Sullivan for Coach of the Year, I think, is ludicrous. That's a team that was picked by the coaches to be fifth in the SEC conference. They were picked sixth by D1 Baseball.
Fair enough.
They're down at the bottom. Like, you start 1-11. I don't care how good your end of the season is. Like, you didn't win it. You're 500 in conference.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Like that. Those Florida fans must have been, drinking too much Gator water right there, because that's ridiculous. I if anything, I would contest that. Butch Thompson from Auburn probably deserves more credit than anyone outside of Schlossnagle for putting together Coach of the Year accolades. What he was able to do with that pitching staff from last year. And now he's he's one of the top pitching coaches in the nation, but what he was able to do with that team is miraculous, because they're starting 3 or 4 freshmen as well. Right. And so, no, I think they pretty much nailed it. I thought, from the way I voted and everything, I thought it all aligned pretty well. So
what Zach's saying is they all picked the same ones he picked, so it's got to be right, is what I'm hearing Zach say right now, which is fine. That's fair.
Not necessarily, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to contest when you have Rylan Galvano. When you look at the numbers and the defense, like,
oh yeah,
that guy behind the plate. When you look at pitchers, especially relief pitchers, like, it is Dylan Volantis from a number standpoint. There's a couple of guys that I thought were equally deserving as Dylan Volantis, but they simply don't have the number. They might have more saves or just similar save numbers, like Dylan Crooks from OU, Osmer from Alabama, but from pure numbers, they don't match up. And that's unique, right? And then the argument between Couriel and Dylan Volantis becomes, well, one's an everyday player and has reached base in every single game.
Yeah.
The other guy has played in 21 of the 53 games. So do you put stock into a guy that plays every day and is able to perform every day, or the guy that's, doing something that's not, very, very rarely seen from a number standpoint, much less out of a freshman pitcher? So,
right. Yeah. And I just go back to the simple thing, which is they faced each other on the field, and Dylan Volantis set him down twice. So Dylan Volantis is clearly the better player than Couriel. So, that's really simplistic, but
yeah,
it was funny. I saw a tweet that said, how do you compare a hitter and a pitcher? I'm like, well, let's see. They actually faced each other twice this year, and one of them lost both. And I know that's super simplistic, because what you're talking about is 100% correct. He played in every single game, made a huge impact on his team. But I'm always going to choose Dylan Volantis over Couriel. That's just what I'm going to do.
And I may have spaced, but did you talk about how 4 Horns made the all SEC defensive team?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool to see Kimball on there. First year playing first base, and he's all defensive. People complain about Gasparina's offense. Well, there you go. Like, he's one of the best defenders in the SEC, right? Like, I saw people hating on Mendoza for getting there at second base. I'm like, how many errors has the guy made? How many assists and putouts has the guy made? Like, he's a very, very good defensive second baseman. Right? So
yeah, absolutely. Like, you talk about a guy like Gaspo, man. If the bat can catch up to the defense consistently, like, that's like a first round type dude. I think. So defensively, certainly one of the best. But again, congrats to all those guys, because if you get anything, if your name gets mentioned at the end of the season in the SEC, like you're a damn good ball player. Yeah. If you didn't make it, that doesn't mean you're not a damn good ball player. There's just a lot of good ball players in the SEC. So it is what it is. But congrats to all those guys. Let's talk real quick about the tournament. Here's the bracket. Ours is kind of interesting because two teams that we have not played so far. We have a very good opportunity to play on Thursday. I feel like. I mean, I would be ultra shocked if Missouri was able to get through Alabama and Tennessee. I'm not going to call it impossible. I would just be really, really shocked if that happened. I mean, listen, Tennessee, man, has not had a great year, man. I mean, they've won 4 series the entire year in the SEC.
Missouri went 3-27. Their only wins were against A&M.
No, I get it. I'm just saying a very hot. No, it wasn't even a very hot A&M team at that point, I don't think. But
no, that's when they were. I mean, they were steaming along at that point. But no,
well, we had swept them. I think we kind of messed up their mojo a little bit that they had going. But so yeah, let's talk about it. Thursday, we're going to probably play the winner of Alabama and Tennessee. Do we care? Like, I wrote down some stuff like. We're the number 1 overall seed in the SEC tournament, right? I feel like Texas, and I don't know how this works. Like, I know there's teams ranked ahead of us today, which seems goofy to me since we're the number 1 team in the SEC, which everyone wildly considers the best baseball conference. Does that play into the seeding, or like is it possible? I guess I'll ask the question: is it possible for the number 1? For the best team in the regular season in the SEC to not be the number 1 seed in the tournament?
It's possible. Yeah.
I mean, does it have? I mean, I guess it's possible, but is there precedent for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. So I actually went and did some history upon this because I was very curious what, with a 22-8 record in SEC play, what does that look like historically? So last year, Kentucky and Tennessee were number 1, number 2 overall. They both had 22-8 records. The top 2 teams in 2023 were 20-10, Arkansas and Florida. They were 2-3 overall. I mean, Tennessee back in 2022 was just, some called them the greatest team of all time. They were 25-5, which was just ridiculous. Of course, they were number 1 overall.
Right.
Arkansas in 2021 was 22-8, number 1 overall. Vanderbilt 23-7, number 1 team in the nation. And they were number 2 ranked seed that year. So that is an aberration going back to 2019. But then before that, I mean, if you won 20 games, you were going to be number 1 or number 2, except for all the way back in 2015 was another one where LSU went 21-8 and they were number 2 overall. So I couldn't find a year that you were less than like a 3 seed or a 2 seed.
Fair enough.
Winning
so,
that many
so I guess with that, the question becomes like, or maybe the statement becomes, and I'll ask it as a question: is there anything Texas could do to knock themselves out of being a top 2 seed at this point? I mean, if they go 1 and done in Hoover, does that change anything about where they're sitting today from a national perspective?
Nope. And I would contend winning 1 game won't change anything either. Maybe
that's the next question.
Winning the SEC tournament would certainly lock up the number 1 seed. But if you look at all the stats, they have a 95% or greater percent chance of being the number 1 overall seed.
Fair enough. Yeah. Which again is kind of the curse. Like, that's kind of the number 1 seed hasn't fared well in the tournament. Statistically, like over, what is it, 2 in the last 20 years have actually won it. Something like, I mean, we've talked about that a couple times.
Last year, Tennessee, and then 1999, Miami were the last 2 number 1 seeds.
Exactly. So I don't care if we're not the number 1 seed, I guess. It ultimately doesn't matter, right? I think if you're a top 8 seed, you got a chance, right? Because you're hosting everything. You don't have to go on the road. And so you get there, and then you see what happens in Omaha. I heard you and Sloss talking a little bit about like setting up pitching and what that looks like. And he had some interesting comments that make 100% sense. Like, I think he wants to get some arms throwing in this tournament. But he also wants to protect some arms as we head into regionals next week. So I think that, we've talked about the lineup earlier. I think that'll be another interesting thing. We might see some unorthodox stuff from a pitching perspective in Hoover. Like, we're probably not going to try to take guys five innings. Like, we're probably going to get a couple of innings out of the starter and move on to somebody else. Is that your sense, Zach?
I think you'll see what A&M did last year as the blueprint, where Prager started 2 innings and he was done. Like, they consider it, what they've done and put on record is they know they're a top 8 seed regardless. And that's at the end of the day, whether you're 1 or you're 8. Now, granted, you don't love to be number 8 because you're going to go up against a really strong 9 that could have been in top 8, but 1 through 7, and they're not following that far down. They've already put in the work, as Pre's coach said, the hay's in the barn. So, the blueprint is what they did last year at A&M, and that's your starting pitcher will go 2 innings, get him a little tune-up. Like to get Valantis in there for an inning just for tune-up, Burns for an inning tune-up. And, yeah, you're not going to tax anyone at all. If they go 30 pitches, I would be shocked. I mean, that means they either had a really long inning or it was so quick that they went back out for a second inning just, because they were working on something, right? So I think where it gets interesting, though, is if they win game 1, and I personally think they're going to be playing Tennessee. I think Tennessee fares better against Alabama than Alabama does against Tennessee. But if they win that first game, very likely it's going to be Georgia or Vanderbilt. I think the way the 2 teams are playing right now, it'll probably be Vanderbilt. And at that point, it's like, do you throw any of your guys? Or again, do you just do the same thing? Tune up and then some of your less heralded guys. And I don't mean that derogatory. It's like, you might see Cody Howard throw 2 innings. You might see Hudson Hamilton throw 2 innings or an inning. So you're going to see some guys out of weird roles as they start to align. So
fans, like, if you don't take to Twitter and start going, oh my God, why did we pull him so early? Or, oh my God, what's this guy doing in here? Like, the team wants to win, but there's a balance of playing to win versus doing something stupid that gets you off schedule for the next weekend when it actually really, really counts.
And it's a fine balance, right? Because you want them to get a little bit of tune-up, but not too much work. You also don't want to tax them. And so, and at the same time, you don't want them to sit for 2 weeks. When you sit for 2 weeks as a pitcher without throwing live ABs, that can be really tough because you're just mentally not as engaged. So you start to slack off and then you're not as sharp.
Absolutely. Mark, are you guys headed out to Hoover on Thursday or Wednesday or whatever?
We are not, buddy. I cannot see how a single elimination tournament's going to get me from Texas to Alabama. That's a little bit too much travel for potentially not a big payout there. So
absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we're staying home, and like Zach was saying, I was kind of thinking about this today. Just kind of playing around. If I was in charge, what would I be doing? And I would literally take a potential 27 innings, right? Because that's the most that we could play in Hoover, and literally have guys scheduled for where they're going to be pitching, right? This guy gets 2, this guy gets 2, this guy's going to get 1. When you talk about relievers, prioritize the ones that you do want to get work so that if you only play 1 game, you maybe get somebody some work. So I would definitely do something like that. I would rest anybody that's banged up at all. And I sure as hell wouldn't catch Rylan Galvan for 3 games if we somehow make it to the championship game. I would hope that he'd get some rest going into the regionals. So, you work all season so that you can put yourself in a situation like Texas is in, where this tournament, let's be honest, guys, it doesn't mean anything to us at all. It means nothing. So I will never say that I want to see Texas lose a baseball game, but I'm not going to be mad at all if we come out on Thursday and don't win. I definitely want to see the guys give max effort, from a hitting and fielding perspective, but from the pitching side, right? Like Zach mentioned, I think it's going to be limited of who you'll see and for how long. I just pray that they come home healthy, and we'll all be ready for next weekend in Austin.
Absolutely. It'll be kind of cool to see how the team approaches it too, because they want to win, right? They're all competitors. They also know that it's not that big of a deal either way. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they approach the game on Thursday, and if they get a win, if they can pull down a win on Thursday, what that does for the rest of the weekend in terms of Like, okay, we got a chance to win. I mean, they're in a really great spot. Win 3 games and you win the damn thing. And so it couldn't be any better odds as far as that goes for this Texas team. But yeah, it'll be kind of cool to see if I want them to show up and be there, right? Like I want them to go try to win, but to everybody's point, there's a balance. Let's not go like head first into some walls, and let's not break our fingers off sliding into first base. And I don't know, that's a tough balance for me. Like I think about how I would be if I was playing, and I would probably do all the dumb shit, like just because I don't like to lose.
Well, Sean, I was going to say this. I'm kind of hoping we don't match up against Tennessee because I hate those shit talkers, and I don't want to lose to them. So.
Tennessee fans, Tennessee Twitter is literally the worst thing that's ever been invented. I mean, it is awful.
Twitter, I'm talking about their players, man.
Oh, well, yeah, their player. Well, that's what. Okay, that's fair. Their players are all idiots, but then their fan base like defends them to the bitter end. Like, oh, they're just having fun. No, dude, he like literally cussed out the entire team while he ran around the bases in a game that he lost. You know what I mean? Like, grow up a little bit, dude. You're not 12 anymore. But that's all I'll say. We won't besmirch Tennessee anymore, except if we play them on Thursday, I'm going to be messing with some Tennessee fans, win or lose. I don't care. Real quick before we get out of here, guys, I wanted to give us some kudos, man. Hank Huerta says, big thanks to the 3 of you guys this year. Reporting support. You guys give Texas baseball second to none. Here's some more great baseball. Absolutely. Hey, we really appreciate that. We appreciate all you guys out there that watch the show, comment with us, and ask us questions. We just like to talk sports, man. And so having you guys along for the ride has been great so far this year. As you said, though, we want to keep going. We want to keep going. We want to be talking in a few more weeks about how we're fixing to win a national championship. At least I do. I won't speak for Mark and Zach, but I'm pretty sure I know where they stand.
I hate winning. What are you talking about?
Well, you do. You picked a lot of bad picks this year, Zach, just to be honest. But that's all right. It happens. They were probably actually kind of smart picks that just didn't work out for you. That's baseball, though, right, Zach?
I'm still waiting on my Matt's dinner.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do it. What you doing? Let's go get some.
All right.
I think like next Friday, because we'll probably play the early game, right? I mean, I think that's the consensus. We'll probably play the early game for the regional. Zach should just take all of us out to Matt's for lunch afterwards.
We can
I'm
do
gonna
that.
be watching
We can do
next
next Friday,
game, man. It's
I know. Man, I'm gonna be. Me and Diane were talking about this. Like these freaking baseball series and tailgating for baseball is like literally. If you think you're tough tailgating for football, come to baseball one weekend. Completely different.
3 or 4 days in a row. Yeah,
it is freaking nuts, man. Like I don't feel like anywhere close to normal until at least Wednesday after these baseball weekends. So, anyway,
you give me a hard time about my predictions, but I'll have you this. So 14 weeks in the season, regular season, and then 10 weeks in conference games. In non-conference games, picking only non-conference teams, 8 games or 8 series a week. I went 67-43 overall. Not terrible.
No.
In SEC play, I went 51-29 picking the series. So
that's pretty good, man.
Hey,
I knew you were going to stat me, but I had to take a little jab anyway.
I had to.
Hey, I'll stat you back. He was 1-4 betting against Texas. So I'll stat you back, baby.
51-29, baby. Come on now.
That's right. All right. Well, that's it for this edition of the Bullpen. We'll be back Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Well, maybe. Yeah, we will. 8:30 p.m. Monday night for the Bullpen. We will be talking all about this SEC tournament and then getting ready for those regionals. We should know. We should know by the time we do the show what the regions look like, what seed everybody is, so we can kind of start talking about what we think is going to happen going forward. Follow us all on X for the latest in Texas baseball right there at the bottom of your screen. All 3 different kind of unique accounts, but you'll get a lot of Texas baseball love at all 3 accounts. I think that's what's important. Subscribe, get notified on the YouTube channel for all of our content at Horn Takes. Zach, Mark, thanks again for joining me tonight in the Bullpen. Thanks again to all of you folks out there that watch Stay with us all season long. We really, really appreciate it. Hey, let's go have a good run in Hoover. Then let's get out to the dish and support the boys. You guys have a good one. Y'all get hooked.
Okay.